Hey there, thanks for stopping by. And I'm sorry to hear that you might be having some problems in your relationship. Relationships can be beautiful, complicated, messy, sometimes confusing. But not every red flag means you should run. Sometimes a red flag is just a warning sign that something needs a conversation. After all, you and your partner are different people. You know, you may have different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions. Something that your partner says or does, or something that you say or do, may be taken in the wrong context. They may not know that it offends you, or you may not know that something you're doing irritates them. Talking about things is the way to clear those little yellow lights up and make sure that they don't turn into red flags. Now, not every red flag can be fixed. Some red flags do mean that you should run, and run quickly. But for those things that can be corrected with a conversation, it's worth a try. You never know. You might be saving your relationship. So, grab your beverage of choice, have a seat, because we are going to have coffee with mom and some real talk about relationship red flags that might be able to be fixed with some conversation. Now, this chat is going to be broken down a little bit differently than we've done in the past. We have 4 different sections, and first of all, we're going to be identifying the issue, what you would deem the red flag. Then we're going to go on to figure out ways that you can communicate with your partner and possibly fix it if you're both committed to repairing this relationship. Section 1, money red flags. If you and your partner are considering moving in together or you've already moved in together, commingling funds makes sense. And this is the time to have that discussion before you've joined your funds together. Because money issues have broken up more relationships than cheating. So in this situation, the red flag is one partner wants to control all the finances. But sharing finances doesn't mean surrendering autonomy. If one partner manages all the money and the other has zero access, that's not teamwork, that's control. And if one partner wants to control all that money and not discuss it with the other partner, then that's an issue that can't be fixed. And you should probably turn this video off, go pack up, and get away from this relationship as fast as you can. So for the rest of us, 5 things that could possibly be fixed with the right amount of communication. Conversation number 1. It's healthy to create both joint accounts and separate accounts for you and your partner. The joint account is going to be for things like paying your rent or mortgage, the electricity, the utilities, the internet, water, cable, all of the things that come from joint living together. Even if you've decided maybe the car payment should come out of there, the insurance should come out of there. Whatever discussion that the two of you have had to join that money together and what things should be joint assets, joint payments, those should all come from the main account. And then you should each have your own separate accounts because you shouldn't have to ask your partner if you want to go buy shampoo. The little things, you need to be able to be autonomous, and so does your partner, so that you've always got access to some funds. So after you've decided what the combined expenses look like, you have to figure out how you're going to fund that account. Are you going to fund it 50-50, 60-40, 30-70? What makes sense for the situation that you're in? And you can base that on a lot of different things like your income, your partner's income. Does one of you have a steady income and one of you does maybe gig work or side work? Is one of you in school? Have that discussion, sit down, write down all of your finances and figure out what's going to be fair and what you're not going to resent. Because if one partner resents how much that they're taking a financial burden on, then it's going to cause tension and it's going to cause problems in the relationship. So set this up before you ever put your money together and decide who's going to pay for what and how that account is going to be funded. And you have to make sure that it covers all of your expenses so that you don't have to look at the end of the month and go, oh, we forgot about this. How are we going to pay for that now? I don't have any money left in my personal account. Do you have any money left in yours? Those are things that you should be considering. Conversation number 2, set up monthly budget meetings or even weekly budget meetings if one of you doesn't have a steady income, or possibly both of you don't have steady incomes. Do either of you work for tips? Is your income variable depending on contracts that you have or other expenses that you have? You may have expenses that come up only once or twice a year, and maybe that month is the time that that expense is going to come out of your account and you need a little bit extra money. Always have some kind of a check-in with your budget. Make sure that you're on track and you don't have anything that's going to be falling through the cracks at the end of the month that's going to come from either your joint expenses or your personal expenses. And you need to make sure that you've had that discussion to separate what is your sole expense, like maybe a credit card or your student loans, and what's going to be that shared expense. Conversation number 3. You need to discuss how unexpected expenses are going to be covered. Maybe a medical expense that you weren't expecting, some emergency, a vet bill. Say one of you had gotten into possibly a car accident, or you had a home emergency. You have an emergency plumbing expense. Do you have a hole in the roof? You have to decide what kind of cushion and where that money is going to come from. Are you going to put those expenses on a credit card? Or is that something that you're going to be paying out of joint assets? If you kind of think about those things a little bit at the beginning, it'll make things a little bit easier. Maybe you decide that it makes sense to set aside a little bit into a savings account, a joint savings account, so that you can build that cushion for an emergency expense. Conversation number 4. Agree on a certain level of expenses that are going to require a joint discussion. Maybe a new car, a vacation. Does one of you have impulsive spending habits? How much debt are you in? You know, some people may decide $100 is a level of expense that we have to discuss. Some people might be more comfortable with $250, depending on how much income you have. Some people may say if it's $500. Some people might say if it's over $10,000, then that's something we have to discuss. I think a pretty good rule here is if it's going to increase your monthly payments. So say a car payment. Say maybe you have a $350 car payment right now, but you need to trade that car in for something a little bit better or a little bit bigger. If your car payment is going to increase by a certain amount every month, maybe that's a level of discussion that you need to have. Or maybe you don't have a car payment at all, but you need another car. That's something the two of you are going to have to discuss because it's going to affect both of you. Those types of things, and you're probably not going to know what they are until they come up. But as soon as you know, have that discussion. Don't ever leave your partner out of a financial decision, especially a big one, because those types of things are going to cause problems. You're going to resent each other. You're going to have a lot of issues with trust, and you want to be able to trust your partner. Conversation number 5 is transparency. What level of transparency are you willing to trust your partner with? Are you willing to trust them with your passwords? Are you willing to trust them with your bank statements? You should definitely trust them with the bank statements for the joint account. You should both have access to that. But do you want to give them access to your personal accounts? What about spending pattern changes or credit card usage? You probably shouldn't be hiding that $10,000 credit card bill, especially if it's going to affect what you're doing and how you're spending your money. Maybe you have some spending pattern changes. You have to buy some new clothes for that new job, or you've got some extra credit card expenses. Share those with your partner. That's part of transparency. Once you've had that discussion about finances and financial expenses, it removes a lot of stress from your relationship. So, how do you start this conversation? Well, one thing you could say is, look, I want us to both be financially independent. I want to have all of our bills covered. So I think that we really need to discuss how we're going to move forward in our relationship regarding our finances. I want you to be comfortable and protected, and I want to be comfortable and protected. Now, I know that took a lot of time, but it was important. So now that we've discussed the financial issues or financial situations, hopefully it's not going to be a red flag for you anymore. If you can trust your partner with your money, then you can trust them with a lot more things, and you're not going to be as stressed out. So now that we've got that hard discussion over, let's move on to something that might be a little bit more uncomfortable. Section 2. The nosy family member or friend. You know the one. The one that shows up at your house uninvited, comes over whenever they feel like it, maybe lets himself into your house whether you're there or not. Or that person that just likes to comment on your relationship or how you don't do things right in your relationship. I mean, just because something works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And it's really hard if it's not your friend or family member. And if it is your friend or family member, then you have responsibility to straighten that out. You know, what about that person who likes to share your private information, like when you're going to be on vacation? They're posting on social media or telling your circle of friends where you're going on vacation, how long you're going to be gone, and how far away from your home that you're going to be. That's a security issue. I mean, they're just inviting somebody to break into your house while you're gone and giving them the amount of time to do it. What about sharing things like your job promotion before you can share it with your family and friends? That just kind of makes you feel really bad. And God forbid they share your baby's gender before you have time to tell your family. And how they found out about that? Who knows? This kind of thing can be destructive in a lot of ways too. Because they're the ones that spread all that gossip about the last argument you just had, who they think is right or wrong, whose side they're taking, and if they tell enough people, that can cause resentment between you and your partner because now you have other friends and family members, outsiders, who are inviting themselves in to take sides about an argument that you've already solved with your partner. This is one of the toughest problems because it's not anything that has to do with your behavior or your partner's behavior, but somebody outside of your relationship who just feels it necessary to invite themselves in. Now, it's not what they do. It's not how often they do this. What it is how your partner reacts to it or how you react to it. Because it might be one of your friends or family members that has always overstepped bounds, and it's not okay. And especially if your partner has a problem with it, or if you have a problem with it on the other side. So, the red flag is not being able to control a person outside of your relationship and giving them information on what you do as a partnership, as a relationship. So, what can we do to fix this? What conversations do you need to have with your partner on how to make this situation livable for the both of you? Number one, you or your partner needs to set a firm boundary with this friend or family member. If it's your family member, you're responsible for setting this boundary. If it's your partner's family member or friend, they're the one who is responsible. You need to agree on a united front. Whatever boundary you set with this person, you both have to agree that you're going to stick to that boundary no matter what happens. And it can get a little bit uncomfortable, especially if this person is used to having access to you whenever they want it. Keep your doors locked. Make sure that this person knows they can't just come over uninvited. Mute your group chats, because you need to share your information with your friends and family on your time, not their time. It's not their business. So how do you start this conversation? Because it's a really difficult one, especially if it's a really close sibling or parent. Well, I think you could start off by saying, I really love. You can either just say your friends or your family, or you can insert that person's name, but I'm pretty sure that your partner is going to know who you're talking about as soon as you start talking about this conversation. We love them. But I feel that they might be overstepping and causing some issues between us. And I would really, really appreciate setting some boundaries with this person. And I think we need to discuss how we're going to handle this together. If your partner doesn't want to talk about this or put any limitations on this relationship, you have to really consider whether you think this is going to be a relationship that you can deal with for the long term. Because if you set zero boundaries, some people will take up infinite space. Section 3, spending too much time with other people. The red flag here: friends, families, coworkers, hobbies, and suddenly you're the last person on the list. Now, this doesn't always mean cheating or neglect or anything like that. Sometimes you or your partner is just a little bit excited about something going on outside of your relationship. And honestly, for the short term, that can be okay. But if it's something that happens constantly, you need to have a conversation about it, because you should not be an afterthought in your primary relationship. Some people just fall into patterns without realizing it. And sometimes you can feel a little neglected. They're not going to know it unless you say something to them. What things can communication fix? Set aside some quality time that's protected. Maybe a date night. Once a week, once a month, whatever you feel is necessary to kind of bring yourselves a little bit closer. Maybe have a time for no phones, dinner, have a movie night. Create a schedule of time that you can expect to spend time together, and a time that your partner might be working on their hobbies or having time with coworkers. And that doesn't mean when they're working overtime because they're working. That's not necessarily something that you can negotiate, especially if you need the money. Sometimes even just a simple little check-in like, hey, we're feeling a little disconnected lately. You think we can maybe have a date night or a conversation or just a night in together with no distractions? See, the key is healthy independence is good, and you should both have some outside interests. But Emotional abandonment is not a good thing. You should know the difference. So, what do you say to start this conversation? I love that you have friends. I love that you have hobbies. I love that you have some of your own interests that makes you an interesting person. I just miss us time. Do you think that we could set aside a little bit of time to do something together? Because you can't fix what you won't name. Section number 4, making decisions without discussion. The red flag here is one partner making big decisions by themselves without discussing anything with the other partner. Things like booking a vacation when they don't even know if you're going to have the time off. Large purchases without telling you. Buying a car or a house. Those are things you need to discuss. What about things like changing work schedules? And I don't mean something that they're assigned, because shift changes happen. Sometimes they just need to cover another work schedule. But if they're working days and they switch to working nights, that throws off everything in the relationship. And if they volunteered for that without talking to you about it, or if you volunteered for it without talking to them about it, I think your issues are a little bit bigger than you feel that they are, because you're not including them in the relationship. But what about just agreeing to events without checking with you? But like a big event, like they've agreed that you're going to host the Christmas party 2 weeks before Christmas, and they haven't said anything to you. There are different levels here. Are they just thinking that you're available for them anytime they want you to be? That's a little excessive. That needs a conversation. Or what about just inviting people over last minute? I mean, you get home from work, you're in the bathtub, and next thing you know, you walk down to the living room, and there's somebody sitting on your couch that you don't know, and you're in a towel. All of these things might seem small at first, but over time, they can build. And that causes resentment, imbalance in your relationship, and emotional distress. And you may feel like you're being taken advantage of or just neglected completely. So, what can communication fix before this gets too far out of hand? Agree on a pause and check system. Now, this doesn't mean that you require permission to do everything, but just common courtesy. If you're bringing somebody home, or if they're bringing somebody home, just agree to a quick text. Hey, are we doing anything tonight? Or, hey, I'd like so-and-so to come over. I'm loaning them something, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be here for an hour, 2 hours. Just check in. You're not asking permission. You're just making sure that the other person is okay with it. You should also create some boundaries for which decisions require a check-in. I mean, if you're just stopping after work for a drink, or if they are with their coworkers, 20, 30 minutes, whatever, is that such a big deal? Or are they 3 hours late and missed dinner? Those are things you have to discuss. If you stop at the grocery store on your way home, maybe you might want to check in with them. They might need something, or they might want you to pick up something that you hadn't thought about. Just decide when simple little check-ins are a good idea, and when you feel like they're stifling your independence. So, ask, what's our expectation around these types of decisions? Because a little common courtesy goes a long way. What do you say? I want us to make decisions together, especially the ones that affect both of us. Can we talk about how we want to handle that moving forward? No pressure, just a discussion. Maybe they're not even aware of what they're doing. Maybe you're not aware of what you're doing. Because guess what? You're not perfect either. And it takes two to make a relationship. So, mom truth. Love doesn't mean assuming. Love means including. All relationships have friction. Friction doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that you're learning each other. You're learning how to live together. You're learning how to interact with each other. You're learning how to strengthen your own relationship. Here's the key. A healthy relationship doesn't avoid conflict. It discusses it. It fixes it. And if both people are willing to communicate honestly without getting defensive, you can work as a team. And you'll figure out how to change more and more of those things that you perceived as red flags into just temporary caution signs, little bumps in the road that communication has helped you fix. So I want you to have a relationship that makes you feel safe, not stressed out. And if you need to have some more discussions with me, you know where I'm at. Stop by anytime for coffee with mom and some real talk. Even if your current relationship ends up not being the right one for you, you'll have learned the best skill anyone can have: healthy communication.